I used to think retirement was the finish line. Like you work for 40 years, maybe 50, and then one day you just stop. Sit on the porch, watch the mail come, maybe read the newspaper. But after a few months of that, I realized something. Retirement is not the end of life. It is the beginning of a whole new kind of living. And I had no idea how to live it. No one really teaches you how to wake up without a job, without deadlines, without someone needing you every hour. It feels like freedom at first, and then it can feel a little empty. But here is the truth. Over time, I started picking up small habits, not because someone told me to, but because I was trying to feel a little more alive each day. These are not fancy. They are not from a magazine. They are just real things that helped me wake up and say, yes, this day matters. So if you are retired or thinking about it and wondering how to make this part of life count, I want to share 8 simple habits that changed everything for me. Maybe you will try one. Maybe you already do some. Either way, this is from one retired soul to another. Let's take a walk through this together. Habit 1. I start my day with a small joy ritual. I used to wake up and grab my phone, scroll through the news, check for any messages, maybe glance at the weather. But every morning started with noise. External noise and internal noise. The world was in my face before I even took my first breath of the day. After a while, I realized that just because I am not working anymore does not mean I should give the best part of my day to stress. Now I start my mornings differently. I call it my small joy ritual. Nothing dramatic, nothing expensive, just something slow, intentional, and mine. Every day, I brew my coffee slowly. Not with a machine that spits it out in seconds, but with my old French press, the one my daughter gave me for Christmas years ago. I sit by the kitchen window and I do nothing else. I do not turn on the television. I do not read the news. I do not look at emails. I just sit. Sometimes I look outside and watch the way the light hits the trees. Sometimes I notice how the birds come and go from the feeder I hung last spring. And sometimes I just close my eyes and breathe. I say quietly to myself, you made it. You are here. This morning is yours. That may sound simple, but that 15 or 20 minutes sets the tone for my whole day. It reminds me that I am not in a rush. I have earned this pace. I am not obligated to be anywhere I do not want to be. There is something sacred in that realization. Some people might prefer tea. Some might pray. Some might write in a journal. It does not matter what the ritual is. What matters is that it belongs to you and it brings you peace. When I start the day with something gentle and grounding, I am more patient with others, more forgiving with myself, and more open to joy. This habit did not come from a book. It came from the need to feel like I was not drifting. It came from the desire to treat each day not as something to get through, but as something to savor. If there is one thing retirement has taught me, it is that time is not measured in meetings or appointments anymore. It is measured in moments, and the first moment of the day deserves to be soft. So I ask you, how do you begin your day? Are you pulled into the noise right away, or could you carve out just a sliver of time to start with something small and kind? You do not need a plan. You just need a pause. That pause might become the most important habit of your retirement. Habit 2, I let myself feel everything. For most of my life, I believed that being strong meant being quiet, that if I felt pain, I should push it down, that if I missed someone, I should keep it to myself. That joy should be measured and sadness should be hidden. But the truth is, holding everything in did not make me strong. It made me tired. Retirement gave me space, and in that space, the feelings I had buried began to surface. Some were sweet, memories of road trips, Sunday dinners, quiet evenings by the fire. But some were heavier, regrets, grief, moments I wished I could undo. At first, I tried to push those feelings away again, like I always had. But there was nowhere else for them to go. So I started letting them come. I would sit with them. Some mornings I would cry, not because something bad happened that day, but because the past still lived somewhere in me, and that was okay. Other days I would laugh, big belly laughs over something my grandson said, or a silly memory I had not thought about in years. That was okay too. Feeling everything does not mean being overwhelmed. It means being honest with yourself. If you are sad, let yourself be sad. If you are grateful, say it out loud. If something hurts, name it. If something feels beautiful, pause and take it in. There is something healing about giving yourself permission to feel fully. I used to walk through the day half numb, pretending everything was fine. Now I feel everything: joy, sorrow, nostalgia, peace, and I am better for it. This habit has made me more human. It has made my relationships richer. When my daughter calls and hears the emotion in my voice, she knows I am not pretending. When I speak with friends and we talk about the hard things, illness, loss, loneliness, we do not change the subject. We lean in, we listen, we honor what is real. I am not afraid of tears anymore. They are not weakness, they are release. And laughter? It is the music of my soul. I will never hold it back again. So, if you are holding something in, maybe something old, something unspoken, I hope you give yourself the gift of letting it out. Feel it, name it, honor it. This is your time. You do not have to carry everything quietly anymore. Habit 3. I tell my stories, even if I repeat them. I have always been a storyteller. Maybe it comes from my dad, who could spin a tale out of a trip to the grocery store. Or maybe it is just part of getting older, this deep need to remember, to relive, to be heard. Whatever the reason, I tell my stories. And yes, sometimes I tell them more than once. My grandson once teased me and said, "Grandpa, you already told me that one." And I smiled, because he was right. But I also knew that story still mattered. Not just to me, but maybe to him too, even if he didn't realize it yet. Stories connect us. They remind us where we came from. They teach lessons we might not even know we are teaching. And sometimes they just make people laugh. That's worth something. I tell stories about when I was in school, about the first car I ever owned, about the summer we drove cross country and got lost in Arizona. I tell stories about mistakes I made, because those are important too. And every time I share one, it's like giving a little piece of myself to someone else. The thing is, when you're retired, people do not ask about your past as much anymore. You have to bring it to the table. And that is not just about ego. It is about legacy. It is about keeping memories alive. It is about making sure the people you love know who you really are. Even when I am alone, I speak some of those stories out loud. It reminds me that I have lived a full life, that I did not just exist. I experienced, I grew, I stumbled, I learned. So if you find yourself wanting to share something for the third or fourth time, do not apologize. Tell it. Let them hear it again. Because maybe this time, they will catch a part they missed. Or maybe one day they will tell it themselves, and your voice will live on in theirs. You have lived through too much to stay quiet now. Speak your stories. They are worth repeating. Habit 4. I say yes to little invitations. There was a time when I said no without even realizing it. Not because I was rude, not because I did not care, I just hesitated. I thought, maybe next time. I told myself I was too tired or too busy, or that it was not important. But the older I got, the more I realized most of life's real moments don't come with a big announcement. They come quietly, as small invitations. One Sunday morning, my neighbor knocked and said, I'm trimming some branches out back. Want to help? Years ago, I would have said, maybe later. But that time I said, sure. We trimmed, we talked, and before I knew it, I had laughed more in 1 hour than I had all week. It was nothing fancy, but it felt like something I had missed. Little invitations are like open doors to connection, movement, and joy. A friend asking if I want to walk around the block. My daughter asking if I want to help decorate cookies with the grandkids. A neighbor inviting me to a backyard barbecue. These aren't events, they're moments, and I've learned that when I say yes, I rarely regret it. In retirement, we sometimes slip into routines that are safe but small. We get used to the quiet. We convince ourselves we prefer it. But when I started saying yes more often, yes to small, simple things, I noticed something. My days felt fuller, not busier, just fuller, richer, more human. It is not about doing everything. I still enjoy my alone time. I still say no when I need to rest, but I've learned to pay attention to the little asks, the casual passing invitations. Those are the ones that usually lead to the best moments, the ones I remember. And it's not just about what I get out of it. Saying yes also shows people they matter, that I'm still part of their world. When my grandson asks, "Can you watch me do a trick on my bike?" and I say yes, I'm telling him, I see you, I care. That matters. Some days, saying yes takes effort. My knees ache, my energy dips, and I would rather stay in my chair. But I tell myself, this is life asking you to show up. Not for something grand, just for something real. If you find yourself turning things down without thinking, try pausing first. Ask yourself, what would happen if I just said yes? Not every invitation will change your life. But everyone is a chance to connect, a chance to move, a chance to smile. Now, I do not wait for big adventures. I say yes to the small stuff, because that is where life still lives. Habit 5. I forgive the man I used to be. For a long time, I carried quiet guilt. Not the kind that keeps you up every night, but the kind that lingers in the background. The kind that whispers, "You should have done better." And for a while, I believed it. I thought about the times I lost my temper when my kids were young, the times I worked too late and missed family dinners, the words I didn't say when they needed to be heard, the apologies I never made because I was too proud or too scared. I thought about my failures, not just as a father or a husband, but as a man trying to do the best he could in a world that never taught him how to talk about feelings or ask for help. For years, I looked back and saw every crack, every flaw. I'd smile on the outside and carry the weight inside. But one morning, not long after my wife passed, I looked in the mirror and saw a tired man, an older man, yes, but also one who had tried, one who had stumbled but got back up, one who loved, even if imperfectly. And I thought, if I met that younger version of myself today, would I judge him? Or would I put a hand on his shoulder and say, "You were doing the best you could"? That was the moment I started to forgive him, the man I used to be. Forgiveness, I've learned, is not about pretending things were perfect. It's about telling the truth and letting it be okay. I made mistakes. I missed chances. I held grudges too long and held back kindness when I could have given more. But I also tried. I showed up. I learned as I went. I forgave myself not to erase the past, but to stop letting it define my future. And when I did that, something inside me softened. My shoulders felt lighter. My days felt brighter. I could look at photos from the past and smile, instead of thinking only about what I could have done differently. Forgiving myself helped me love others better too. It made me more patient, more open, more understanding when my kids told me about their struggles. It made me a better grandfather because I was no longer trying to fix everything. I was just there, fully present, If you are carrying regret, I want to tell you this. You are allowed to set it down. You do not have to carry every mistake with you forever. Speak to the younger version of yourself with kindness. He was learning. He was surviving. He was doing what he thought was right. You are not that man anymore, but he is part of you, and he deserves peace. You cannot go back, but you can move forward lighter, and you deserve that freedom. Habit 6. I care for something alive. There is something deeply human about caring for something that depends on you. When I retired and the days started to feel quieter, I noticed how easy it was to slip into the background. I was no longer needed at work. My kids were grown and busy with their own families, and though they loved me, they didn't need me the way they once did. That realization hit harder than I expected. I missed the feeling of being useful, of being responsible for something other than my own comfort. I missed having a reason to step outside, to check in, to nurture. Then one spring, I decided to plant a few tomato seeds, not because I had a plan, but because I wanted to watch something grow. I had a small patch of dirt out back, and I figured, why not? Those little seeds became more than plants. They gave me a reason to get up early and check the soil. They got me moving when I didn't feel like moving. They gave me something to talk about when my grandkids came over. Watching something grow under your care, it brings a quiet kind of purpose that is hard to explain. Later, I added a few pots of herbs, basil, mint, rosemary. I even bought a bonsai tree. It's not doing great, to be honest, but that's all right. The point isn't perfection, it's connection. I know folks who find the same feeling in different ways. Some take care of pets. Some babysit grandkids or volunteer at the library. Some feed the birds every morning and talk to them like old friends. It doesn't matter what you care for. What matters is that it's living, and it needs you, even in a small way. When you care for something alive, it pulls you into the present. You start noticing things again. The smell of soil after it rains, the sound of leaves in the wind, the joy in a dog's tail wagging when you walk in the room. It grounds you, and it reminds you still have something to offer. That feeling that you are not just passing time, but participating in life, that matters. I do not have to manage a team or run a business anymore. I do not have to be in charge of anything big. But I can still nurture. I can still make something bloom. I can still matter in the life of a plant, a pet, or a person. If you are feeling disconnected, I invite you to try it. Pick one thing, a plant, a bird feeder, even a neighbor who could use a phone call once a week, and tend to it. Give a little love and see what comes back. In a world that sometimes moves too fast, caring for something small and alive might just be the thing that brings you back to yourself. Habit 7. I schedule silence. There was a time when silence made me uncomfortable. After my wife passed, the house felt too quiet. The kind of quiet that echoed. At first, I tried to fill it. Television on in the background, radio playing old songs, anything to avoid the stillness. But the noise did not soothe me. It just covered up what I needed to feel. Eventually, I stopped fighting it. I turned everything off and sat. Just sat. At first, it was strange. I didn't know what to do with myself. The silence brought thoughts I didn't expect, memories, regrets, small joys I had forgotten. But over time, something shifted. The silence became a space, not an emptiness. It became something I looked forward to. Now, every afternoon, I make time for it. I sit outside if the weather is kind, on the porch or in the backyard. No phone, no news, just the rustling of leaves, the hum of distant traffic, the soft rhythm of my own breath. Sometimes I close my eyes and simply listen. In that silence, I find answers. Not big, dramatic ones, but quiet realizations. I remember what I'm grateful for. I feel closer to the people I've loved and the person I'm still becoming. We live in a world that celebrates noise, productivity, speed, constant connection. But silence is where the soul stretches out, where the heart catches up. I do not meditate in a formal way. I do not light candles or chant. I just sit and let the silence be what it is. Some days it feels heavy, like a thick fog. Other days it feels light and clear, but it always tells me the truth. In silence, I've forgiven people. I've remembered kindnesses I forgot to thank. I've even laughed, alone, quietly, at memories that came out of nowhere. I schedule silence now like I used to schedule meetings. Not because it is productive, but because it is sacred. It is my time to just be. If you have never tried this, or if you've avoided silence out of fear or habit, I encourage you to give it space. Start with 5 minutes. Sit somewhere still. Let the quiet come. It may surprise you. It may soften something inside you. It may be the one habit that gives all the other ones room to grow. Habit 8. I pass something on. There comes a time when you start thinking less about what you can gain and more about what you can leave behind, not in a big dramatic way. No trophies, no titles, no wealth to pass out, but in the quiet ways that matter. A recipe, a lesson, a story, a skill. When I first retired, I thought my days of teaching were over. I had no office, no students, no team to lead. But then one afternoon, my granddaughter asked if I could show her how to make the cornbread I used to bring to Thanksgiving. She called it Grandpa's bread. I hadn't thought much about it. It was just something I used to do. But she remembered, and she wanted to learn. So we stood in the kitchen together, me with my old mixing bowl, her with her notepad, and I walked her through every step. We laughed when she spilled the milk. We smiled when the smell filled the house, and when we pulled it out of the oven, she said, "I'm going to make this for my kids someday." That moment stayed with me. It reminded me that I still have things to pass on. Now I do it more intentionally. I write little notes in the margins of cookbooks. I label old photos with names and dates. I keep a small journal of stories I think my grandkids might want to hear one day. Not just the happy ones, but the honest ones too. I show my grandson how to change a tire. I tell my daughter how I handled hard days when she was little. I give my neighbor the old gardening trick my father taught me. These aren't grand gestures, but they are pieces of me. Pieces of a life lived. Passing something on is not about holding on to the past. It is about planting seeds for the future. Seeds of love, of wisdom, of humor. Sometimes people won't realize what you gave them until years later, but that's all right. The point is not recognition. The point is continuity, connection, meaning. I do not have all the answers, and I've made peace with the fact that the world will go on long after I'm gone. But while I am here, I want to give what I can, not because I have to, but because it feels right. When I leave a note in the toolbox for my grandson that says, "This one was my favorite wrench, always worked better than it looked," I am not just passing on a tool. I am passing on a little piece of how I see the world, a bit of humor, a bit of heart. If you are wondering what you still have to offer, I promise you, there is something. Maybe it is a favorite saying. Maybe it is a song you always sing. Maybe it is the way you make others feel safe when they are near you. You do not need to wait for the perfect moment to pass something on. Just look for someone who is ready to receive it and offer it gently. We all become part of someone else's story when we share what we have lived and learned. That, to me, is one of the quiet blessings of growing older.